hands, how many people are at a Brahma Kumari's program for the first time ever? Look at that. Look at that. Amazing. So the news I want to share with you, I relate to you, because it's my first time here at the ORC Retreat Center. I've been with the Brahma Kumaris for about 20 years, but it's a beautiful place that you have so close to the city. And I posted something on Facebook just the other day saying at 6 o'clock in the morning, I was walking around, the amount of birds that I heard chirping, I think the last time was in Colombia in the rainforest. So we're very, very honored to have a place such a beautiful, serene, a place for introspection right here so close to the big city, the capital city of India. What I'd like to do is for us to first settle down, and if you could join me in a minute of just turning inwards to become present, and then I will talk about what we're here to do for the rest of the day. Is that all right? So use this moment to just breathe in deeply, settle down, put things down from your hands, sort of let the burden down for a few moments, if you will, both physically and mentally. And use breath as a way to set the anchor. Breathing in deep into the abdomen, just like when you see a baby sleeping very peacefully. You'll see the rise and the collapse of the abdomen. And observe, just observe your sensations, how you're feeling, perceiving sound that's around in this room. The sense of touch, perhaps one arm over the other. And notice the feelings that are there within. Notice how your body is doing at this moment. Just observing. Thank you. So that's how we start pretty much anything that we do here at the Brahma Kumaris. I saw that many of you raised your hands when I asked how many people are here at a Brahma Kumari event for the first time. So let me give you a very brief introduction. So Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual University was established in 1936. It started in what today is in Pakistan, Sindh, which is obviously back then it was all one country in 36. And since the 1950s, with the headquarters is based out of Mount Abu in Rajasthan. This is one of the 9,000 centers that we have around the world. And there's another unique thing about this particular center. It's not just a center, but it's a retreat center. So where you're welcome to come and stay here overnight. We have groups. We have an accommodation here for 1,000 people. And there's another block that's going to be ready in a few months. It's going to extend it to 1,400 people that can stay and spend an experience of complete immersive learning and immersive introspection. And so we have about 15 such retreat centers around the world in 130 countries. So I'm going to talk about the agenda for today so you have a sense of where we're going. So like I said, we had an on-time start. That's great. And we have, after me will be my colleague Balkishore, who's going to set some context on why the role of meditation is and connect the science of meditation with modern applications. And after that, we have a very special guest. We have a friend who's flown in from the United States, the Google headquarters, so you'll hear more from him. And then we have sort of the heart of this transformation leadership dialogue that you all are here for. And my dear friend Ken O'Donnell will be leading that for about close to 2 hours. And then we have a break, 15 minutes. And after that, Sister Shivani, who you all probably already know and probably follow, she'll be with us and she'll spend some time sharing her wisdom. And then we'll have the partners of this summit. There's about 8 different organizations that have helped to produce this event. This is an initiative that has been worked upon for the last 4 months, and today you're seeing the fruits of that. So we'll have them come up and share a little bit about why they were here and what inspired them to participate. And then you will hear from the 2 people who are instruments for the Om Shanti Retreat Center, the 2 heads, if you will, Sister Asha and Brother Brij Mohan. They will share a few words, and then we will close it out with some blessings. blessing ceremony on the stage, and then everybody will head for lunch at about 1:40, 1:15. So it should be all said and done by about 2 o'clock, and you can go about whatever else you have planned. Any questions about the flow of the day? Okay? All right, so now I will like to talk to you about the genesis of this leadership event. This Transformational Leadership Summit has a lot of history. Now, the number one thing I'd like to mention to you is why are we doing something like this? The Brahma Kumaris have been involved with leadership programs for over 30 years in the Western world and over 80 years in this country. The simple premise is influencing and helping leaders, people in positions of power, to influence the communities that they're working with. It's a company, a nonprofit, a country, a community, whatever it is, to create a world that we all want, a world of happiness, a world of love. So that's the single most important premise, and I'm going to talk to you about a myriad of different programs, initiatives that the Brahma Kumaris does around the world. The first or the most recent one, this is from the news, I pulled this clipping out of BBC from last month, the Davos Summit. I think you all probably know the Davos Summit, the World Economic Forum. And what you can't see with the lighting, but that's Sister Jayanti, the Brahma Kumaris regional coordinator for the Europe region, leading a bunch of global leaders from different parts of the world. And meditation, as seeing evidenced here, is becoming a very mainstream thing. Before it was associated with religion. Today it is something that is part of education, sports. A lot of sportsmen, top athletes talk about it. And the most recent foray is it's made its way into the business, into the corporate sector. And you will hear from one of the people who represents one of the top companies in the world talk about that. Call of Time dialogues is something that's been going on for the last 15 years. This is an area where we bring together leaders from around the world, both within India and from different countries abroad, to focus on political and social changes in this world. And that happens in 3 countries, the UK, USA, and India. And then we have the Spirit of Humanity, which was founded in Reykjavik in Iceland. And so the city of Reykjavik, the Feds Institute, the Brahma Kumaris, and a bunch of other partner organizations are talking about governance. How do we shape governance, and what are some of the premises around the conducting of proper governance? And then peace of mind retreats, which has been happening again for the last 50 to 20 years, happens in our headquarters in India, and needless to say, the objective is really that, helping to foster peace of mind amongst leaders from different parts of the world. Women of Spirit. So as I look around the room, I'm very pleased to see there are a lot of women leaders here. And the Brahma Kumaris, as the name suggests, is one of our principal objective is to foster the Shakti leadership, to foster leadership among women, and to bring out that element of leadership. And these are events that also happen in different parts of the world under different titles, and Women of Spirit is one of the initiatives. This is a picture from the UK. The Future of Power dialogues. So this is about taking responsibility for proper leadership. What are some of your personal responsibility as leaders? This is a dialogue that's been going on for the last 3 years. It's traveled many countries, many cities. Here's a picture from Australia. And then we have, this is a picture from Silicon Valley. This is an event that was inspired by the Indian ambassador based in the United States. He asked us to conduct a retreat that fosters compassion in your workplaces. A lot of leaders have a personal intention for compassion, but how do we bridge the gap between what they're doing at work and what they have in their mind, are doing it in their homes, and so on and so forth. Now, a little bit about from India itself. So as I mentioned to you, for about 80 years, the Brahma Kumaris have been doing programs, activities, engaging with leaders from this country. Here's a picture with the IT minister of this country. We have 22 wings. So I would say that it's pretty much there is not a single sector within this country that has not been touched and been influenced and served by the Brahma Kumaris. And here is a collage of people from all walks of life, from space astronaut to social leaders to politicians to heads of state, and the list goes on and on. There's only so much I could do in my few minutes. Now, fast forwarding to the immediate, sort of the most recent introduction is we've put out this online app, and all of you obviously are having cell phones that have a number of different apps, and we found that it's very easy to bring this to the convenience of your pocket so that day to day you could have experiences of what's called a mind spa, a mind gym, a way to be able to take moments of silence. This is something called a traffic control. So like a little ping that goes off, you can set it for whatever frequency you want. It'll inform you and you alone to take a moment for yourself, to take a breath before you get on to the next meeting, next phone call, etc. So we'll talk about this app maybe during the break if you're interested, but this is something that we encourage not only for yourself, but here's the thing, that's a free resource that's available for you to take to your organizations. With that, I'd like to welcome onto stage my colleague, Balakishore, who's the Vice President of Transformation Leadership at a company called Sears, which does business analytics. It's a cloud-based business analytics company. Welcome.
Good morning. So in the next few minutes, I'll try to set the context about what is meditation, which most people have a lot of questions about, and what is the science behind meditation. Let's start with a simple exercise. Can you please read that? I haven't changed a single letter. This and this is exactly the same. Which one was easier? Why? And what did the space do? That's meditation. When we do things like this, we know what happens. And when we introduce those moments into what we do without changing a single letter, you experience that in the last few seconds. It's less stressful, takes less time, and gives more clarity. And what does this space, how does this space help you? In very simple terms, helps you think less, think better, and think slow. All positive emotions, if you check, have this characteristic of slowing down your thinking. All negative emotions, if you check, have this characteristic of increasing the speed of your thinking. So the other way around, when we consciously think less and we think slow, think better automatically comes. And what does that do to you? In the last few years, there's a lot of science that has come about how brain behaves, what is the reactions that happen inside the brain corresponding to every single state of your mind. So we have a clear one-to-one mapping. How you feel and then what actually happens inside the brain. As the number of thoughts and the speed of thoughts you make reduces, so does this EEG, or the brain being an electrical organ. It keeps generating constantly those electrical signals from the rear of your brain, rear of your head to the front. So the lesser the frequency, the more is the relaxation that you feel both in your mind and body. When you are deeply relaxed, when you are in a state of meditation, or when you are visualizing something pleasant, brain gets into this theta stage. Deep dreamless sleep, it is delta. So unless we dip into it, we won't experience that rejuvenation or relaxation. That's how meditation helps you, by thinking less and thinking slow. And what happens inside the meditating brain? Quite often we must have heard even students saying, I would like to improve concentration, can you teach me meditation? I have a high BP, so the doctor says, can you start meditating so that you will calm down? How does that happen? When you start meditating, this is a cross section of brain. This part of the brain, we call it as the prefrontal cortex. This part of the brain, that's what makes us human. When you start meditating, the activity in this part of the brain goes down. That means you start thinking less, you start thinking slow, and you start relaxing. And you must have quite often heard that when you meditate deeply, you relax so much that you actually start feeling very, very light. And you start becoming one with the surroundings. You must have at least read that. How does that happen? parietal lobe, this part of the brain, is the one that actually helps us where the chair starts, where your hand ends, where the floor starts, where your leg ends. It gives us the sense of our body and self. When we meditate in deep state, the activity in this lobe goes down. That means you start identifying yourself where the boundaries between you and the nature around starts disappearing. And how does it help improve concentration? Thalamus is deep inside the brain. That is the gatekeeper of our senses. Quite a few signals are going to our brain. For example, can you feel the chair? Can you listen to the hissing sound that's coming from the AC? It was always there. But only when you pulled your attention did it get processed by these higher regions of the brain. Because a lot of information gets filtered from this thalamus. When you meditate, activity in this region goes down. That means even when the signal is coming, brain is not processing. That's what is focus. Because then it is less distracted. When the signal is processed, you get distracted. When the signal is not processed, that means no distraction. That means it improves concentration. So there is good science behind what our mind does and then what actually happens inside the brain as a result of your thinking, and what is the science behind meditation. This is just a taste, a glimpse, so that you continue to enjoy and experience the benefits of meditation. Because we are rational, logical. Once the rational mind is given enough information and said, okay, this works, this is fine, then the heart takes over. So this was meant to reach to your head so that your hearts open up. And what are some of the benefits? And these are all researched. Anybody is interested, you can drop us an email and we can share the data. At the behavioral level, at the emotional level, it reduces anxiety, improves your impulse control. Even with respect to health, it reduces chronic pain. It helps combat eating disorders. It reduces inflammation, one of the biggest problems that we are facing today. And it also helps in cognitive development, improves your focus, improves your ability to make proper decisions. And there are a lot of benefits with just few minutes of meditation every single day. In order to streamline, in order to have this meditation included as a part of professional world, we have helped Volkswagen in Pune to set up a self-reflection room. This is a picture of their actual self-reflection room that's operational for the last 20 months in Pune on their, as a part of their vehicle manufacturing plant. So one of the suggestions we have from this summit or from this dialogue is for you folks to think through and see if you can set up these kind of spaces. Because having that kind of a space which we can help set up with, and what to do, how to use it, we can help you with that. You can take it forward. Good. Any questions so far? Yeah, that's how it is actually numbered. Yeah, just the category. Yeah, there is beta, and then when you are angry, it even goes to super beta. We are not, so I didn't include that here. Good. So let me invite Kiran Mani, the managing director from Google from San Francisco, and is flown down specifically for this program here.
Thank you so much, Bala. Morning, everyone. I don't have a presentation. I'm standing actually between the real deal for today, which is Ken. But my job over here is more to introduce from a purely a personal angle. How have I benefited from a practice of meditation, which has helped me the last 7 years? And why is it important in the context of leadership that we speak about there's a lot of talk about meditation today. And coming in from a company like mine, which prides in organizing knowledge for the world, we are also a company which is, not many people know, which takes the subject of meditation and mindfulness pretty seriously. In fact, we try to institutionalize it as much as possible. So I'll quickly lead in with a personal example on what got me into this journey and how my own association with Brahma Kumaris has grown me. 7 years ago, in fact, almost to the date, I used to live here in Gurgaon before I moved to the US. It was exactly 7 years. There was a moment in my life which should have been the happiest moment for me. I grew up in a traditional middle-class Indian household, brought up with so-called Tambram values that work hard, study well, be ethical, and achieve well in life. I saw education as a way to get the financial independence that many of us, sought out in our initial lives. And I must say, 7 years ago, if I had dreamt at the age of 18, and I had dreamt to the wildest extreme about what I could have gotten to in my life, I had gotten there. Right? I should have been incredibly happy and grateful about where I had gotten to. Yet I can actually recall that one moment as perhaps one of the most unhappy moments in my life. Because around me, all my so-called relationships were crumbling. At the workplace, I was known, I wasn't respected. Right? Perhaps most people would tell you that Kiran has achieved a lot, but is it somebody with whom they would like to share a cup of coffee and have a conversation? Perhaps not. At home, I had put the weight of expectations on every relationship around me. And I think my own success was basically making me do 3 big mistakes, and which is now I have the benefit of hindsight, that I had become extremely judgmental. I was judging anything and everything around me. I'd put the weight of expectations on things around me. And also, there was that moment where everything was judged on what's in it for me rather than what can I do. I think in the last 7 years, again, my own first video on meditation started off more in a very reluctant way, I must admit, was a video of Sister Shivani. And I was almost laughing to myself when I first saw that video, saying that, oh my God, what am I sitting and listening to all these things? I've been educated. Nobody needs to teach me the art of living. I can figure it out myself. But, from there started a process where I suddenly realized that all the knowledge that we accumulate outside doesn't come to anything unless and until we start looking inside and figuring out what really truly matters. And what Bala mentioned, the fact of creating space in life, I can say it that as leaders, it is such an important art to accumulate. I can say for myself, days are never getting less busier. In fact, now I've got 2 daughters. I'm a father. I'm a family man. I'm a son, and along with that, I also have the responsibility what my corporation puts me. So technically speaking, 24 hours is never enough. I can ask for more, but you have only 24, and you have to fit in so many. The art of actually saying that what truly matters has really come in from small practices. Now there was a time when I used to justify myself that I've had a hard day. I can sleep till 7:30 in the morning. But now I justify myself, I have a really hard day. I need to wake up at 4:45 and meditate for 30 minutes. Because I think what happens is most of fatigue today doesn't come from physical exertion. Fatigue actually comes from your mental accumulation through the day. How do you manage that? And as leaders, what we also recognize is we forget how much impact that we have on people's lives, that our words, our actions, our thoughts are magnified in the lights of people and in their own thoughts almost every single day. So if I lead an organization of 150 people, there are 150 people who are magnifying everything that I say. Half our lives we spend on corporate workplaces. So as leaders, the fact of creating that space, the fact of creating positive thoughts, if we all just recognize that what we do in our corporate lives is half our lives, if you forget the fact that instead of creating value creation for stock markets, we are actually creating value creation for humanity, we will all think and act differently. And I think that's where the power of meditation comes in. It started off as an exercise of self-discovery, but what increasingly find is it's actually become an exercise of basically finding more purpose at the workplace, making people more happier. And a happier, more purposeful workplace is the best thing that we can create, because more than at home, there are so many more capable people who come together to make things happen. And the ability to do just beyond just doing corporate good has been the single biggest benefit that I've seen. So with that, let me introduce Ken on stage to speak more about this. Thank you.
So good morning. I'm from Australia, so if you don't speak Australian, you may not understand. I live in Brazil. I've been there for almost 40 years, and I coordinate the Brahma Kumaris in South America. But at the same time, I've had a parallel track all of my life. I worked in research as a chemist, and then processes and strategies and so on. I wrote many books, 15 to be exact, about organizational development and self-development, because I'm a great fan of meditation. And I agree with Bala and also Kieran that this is the best way to do things. But I'd like to start off just by giving you an example, because we have an experience and we can refer to it and think about it rather than something theoretical. Yeah? The idea of meditation is to create a space inside. It's a space from which you manage. It's a space from which you can organize things. And in fact, the word Raja means sovereign, so it's a space for you to create a sense of self-sovereignty, where you are the one who calls the shots, rather than, the things around you pulling you here, pushing you there, and this and that. You can go inside, sit quietly, and take command of your life. So let's sit nicely on our seats, not slouching. Sit nobly on your seats. It helps the posture. Don't need to even close your eyes. Just let your gaze rest at some point in front of you. Just rest your gaze. Without actually looking at anything, just rest it. And just be aware of the things that are happening around you. You can hear the sounds, you can hear my voice, you can hear the sound of the projector. You can hear the silence behind everything. Maybe you can feel your own heartbeat. Now, in the same way you're sitting on your seat, there's a special subtle seat behind the eyes, in between the two sides of the brain, which is actually the headquarters of our thinking and processing. So let's mentally sit on that seat behind our eyes and just observe. But more than observe, understand that you are a subtle energy. You have a body, but you are the conscious energy that gives it life. And when you're at a state of rest, just as the body's not jumping around, the conscious energy is also not jumping around, so you feel peaceful. In fact, that is your natural state. It's not natural to be thinking so much. And you can actually see how, by just observing, you become relaxed, and also your thinking starts to slow down. Now open your eyes more naturally. Try to keep this consciousness with your eyes open. That actually the eyes are windows, and there's someone inside there looking out through the windows. And it's the same one that's listening. Got it? The whole objective of meditation, in fact, and the idea of leading the self starts there. To lead yourself, you have to know who you are. And to know that, you have to know what you are also. So there are a couple of premises that we work on here. We are spiritual beings, and we have bodies. We work through them. So I have a body, I'm not the body. I have a nose. I say my nose or my hand. If you look at your hand, everyone. Move your thumb. Move the index finger and the other fingers. Move them all. They're not moving by themselves. You, the commander, are saying move. Move thumb. Move foot. Sit body, right? You're eating something, like spoon, mouth, right? But it's not that the spoon is jumping into your mouth. You are deciding to do that. So if you can bring everything back to that, and I'll show you what happens, right? Another premise, behind everything, underneath everything, around everything, there are spiritual truths that we may or may not understand. But they call, for example, this is the world that we live in, but it's also the field of action, karma, kshetra, right? So this is a place where we act. This is a place where, there are things that govern our lives, whether we like it or not. There are also physical laws like gravity. We can't do much about that. We can't do much about aging because entropy is built into the system, right? We will leave these bodies, right, at some point. Even though we'd like to think that to be immortal, it's not possible. So there are physical and metaphysical laws that underpin everything. That's another premise. We may not understand them, but these are the ones that govern the game of life. And so if we're in the game of life and we don't know the rules, we may mess up, and we often do. So the experience of these spiritual truths is where meditation starts. So that's what we're on about. That's like the initial kick-off premises. In this context of leadership, it's obvious that I can't manage myself. That will affect the way I manage others. Definitely. And leadership is about context. And there are contexts within context within context. If I see the biggest context, I'll have the bigger vision. And if I see more, I'll understand more. If I understand more, I'll decide better. That's how it works. So the bigger context, I'll talk about that in a minute. Leadership is also about the relationship. A relationship is a very human thing, right? If you don't have a relationship, you don't lead anyone. If you go out there and you expect people to follow you, why would someone follow you? Why? Why do you think? Why would someone follow you? Tell me. Pardon?
You're setting an example.
You set an example for them.
And they believe that their life is going to be better.
You believe that your life will be better if you follow this fellow.
You inspire them.
Yeah, you inspire them. It's all about inspiring. And a relationship is a conversation that we have. The quality of the conversation is the quality of the relationship. And the quality of the relationship is the quality of the leadership. Leadership's an art, really, not a science. So unfortunately, it's connected with MBAs and stuff, but it's all about spiritual understanding. The way I understand someone, the way I understand myself, the way I interact with them. These are the sorts of things we're going to look at. And basically, it's all about attitudes. And basically, even more basically, how do you like to be treated? Do it. And how you don't like to be treated, Don't do it. Right? That doesn't work if you're a masochist. But generally, you know what I mean. What do you like in what you get from others? What do you like? How do you like others to behave with you? Huh? Tell me. Respectfully. Who likes respect? Who likes liars? Right? That's what I'm talking about. Now, how to have that sense of command of yourself that you can produce the sorts of attitudes naturally, and not faking it, that are appropriate to the situation that happens. It's an art. And of course, the context that we live in today is complexity.
Can I interrupt and ask a question? In your last slide, you mentioned, in your last slide, you mentioned that you perceive more, you think more, you understand more, and then you're able to decide better. Bala told us 10 minutes ago, slow down, think less. So I'm a little confused as to...
Okay. You don't need to think more to understand more.
Or I choose better and decide.
That's right, but I'm not talking about thinking more. Actually, if you think less, you'll see more. There'll be less clutter. So it's in consonance with what Bala said. So, but we do live in a complex world. You know, this actually exists. This is China. Some spaghetti junction, they call it, spaghetti junction. But I mean, living in today's world, chaos is something which is dynamic, which is complex, which is self-organizing, which is, you know, practically everything that we see. Traffic, weather, our own minds, our organizations, they are chaotic systems. So if we can understand more, look at the global context, and this is how we normally operate. All of these things are happening in the world, you know, the political change, the market shifts, the technology development, the environment falling apart. All of these things are shifting and changing, and they affect our organizations, public and private. Now, what happens in our organizations ends up affecting our personal context. And there we are, in the middle of it all, mostly confused. We don't understand it. We try to adapt. We run and rush and go and do and, you know, we push things ahead, and we're not really used to slowing down. Our pause button is broken. Do you find that? Have a pause in which you can organize your thinking just for 30 seconds. And we need to create that space, even if it's 1 second between what I am and what's happening, so that I can organize the best response. But generally, we're so stuck on what's going on, you know, our nose is against the window. There's no time between what we are and what we need to do and what we actually do. So, you know, being there in the middle, who am I, what am I, why am I, why is this happening, why me? And we live in a world of suddenly, right? Suddenly something happens, suddenly someone dies, suddenly I have a heart attack, suddenly. It's unpredictable. As complexity grows, unpredictability also grows. And, you know, I work in strategic planning. It's impossible these days, almost. You have to adjust the plan every week, right? At least. In the past, it was easy to plan. 5-year plans, you must have heard about them. I think people these days have a 5-day plan, right? It's too complex. And so what comes out from us is crooked, you know? Because I'm confused. What comes out from me is also confused. So I'm confused. The world's confused. So what happens? My confusion multiplies the confusion around me, and that's it. You know. What you know, if I'm aware of these, the widest and the biggest context which actually underpins everything, the physical and the metaphysical laws, like karma, like entropy, like basic things, like giving is getting. These are laws. There's not some religious phrase. That's how it works. You know, in physics, if I throw this up, it comes back, the same speed, the same intensity. But metaphysically, if I say something, do something, think something, it comes back to me, but after a week, after a month, after a year, boom, where did that come from? So, if I understand that, and internally I'm okay, I'm sitting on a seat of my own power. It's not physical power, it's not power over anyone else. It's power over me. My thoughts, my thinking, my speaking, my decisions. Then, you know, I will affect definitely my personal context. I will affect my organizational context, and through that I'll affect the world. So there's a sort of a symbiosis, if you know what that means. It's sort of a dance, a subtle dance between the overriding and underpinning spiritual laws and my inner state. It's a dance. And it's, you know, if I can slow down, I'm going to talk about this. This is a picture of someone's mind, maybe your own. A lot of stuff going on, right? There are three things that we as leaders need to do to live in this chaotic world. I have to create a very clear sense of identity. What are the true things about me that do not change? In a world where everything else is changing, what is in me that doesn't change? This is what I have to hold on to. And if I understand what I am, who I am, I will understand what I'm supposed to be doing. So a sense of purpose. For example, what does a light do? What does a light do? Illuminate. What does a microphone do? What does this remote control do? Changes the slides. So every physical thing practically has a purpose, and it's absolutely associated with its identity. So what about me? How come it's not so clear? If I really understand that I'm a peaceful being, for example, what does a peaceful being do? Yeah, gives peace. If I understand that I'm basically at heart a loveful being, you know, the way that I interact with others will be different. It does not mean you have to be goody-goody, you know. But if you are with people, a good question, are people happier when you arrive or when you leave? Or don't you know? That's even worse. Maybe you leave a tape recorder in the room after you go out. They're all celebrating. Ah, fantastic, he's gone. Now let's go back to what we were doing. You don't want that sort of situation, do you?
Sometimes they like, sometimes they don't like.
Yeah. Well, we live in a culture where people sort of, they live on praise and, you know, bowing down, and there are even worse names for it. But is it real? If someone's apparent friendliness real? So the thing about leadership, I need to be real. I need to be real. So if I even have to give a correction, and I do that in a respectful manner, they will appreciate my corrections. But if I give a correction in an aggressive, arrogant manner, no one likes it. You don't like it either. You know, isn't it? So these are the sorts of things. If I know who I am, I will know what to do, and I'll know where to go. So even in spite of all of the confusion around us, those three things act like a very good anchor in a very crazy world, right? So this is connected with me, it's connected with the team, you know, who we are, what we do, where we go, and it's connected with the organization as well. Who we are, what we do, where we go. You know, they do such a lot of work working out the mission of the organization. It's a little bit different from purpose. You know, purpose is why you do what you do. Why do you get up every morning? Why are you running? Where are you rushing to? You know, you've probably got friends that have had heart attacks. Yeah? Rushing, rushing, rushing. Do you? Do you know someone? Because they're living in that black stuff and they're not living in the stuff in the front. Yeah? So my personal context, it's also confusing. You know, there's all of these things. The bits and pieces of our life, the jigsaw puzzle we have to work out, but we don't do it very well. We sort of, you know, any old how, work, family, work, family, work, family, visit friends, work, family, visit friends, go to the doctor, work, family, you know. At the end of what, 12-hour working day, you're absolutely in a state of collapse. Did you really produce much for such an investment of time? Maybe not. So I have to bring back things to the center. And if I deal with things from a sense of self that does not change, I am a peaceful soul, I'm a peaceful being, and from that state I interact with family, go back, interact with work, go back. Now if friends are there, go to the bank, right? Supermarket, whatever, doctor. That sort of movement is much more economical and you think less. Yeah? This is a picture of a lot of us, maybe. We didn't start off like that, you know. When we were about 2 years old, nothing of that was there. But 30 years later, look at it. And that, you know, I was working with the airport authority in Brazil just before the World Cup soccer. And they had to fix up 10 airports in the 10 cities where the matches were. They were all behind schedule. And they were tearing their hair out, poor fellows. And I asked them, you know, what's the busiest airport in Brazil? They said the domestic one in Sao Paulo. It has a flight every minute or so. And I said, what about the airport of the mind? You know, things come in and take off. You can have, in the 1,000 waking minutes we normally have, if you have one thing happening every half second in your mind, it's 120,000 things in one day, right? So, lots of mental bits fighting for, disputing space in our minds. It's the main cause of tiredness. It's not our physical activity that makes us tired, it's excess thinking. And this clutter makes for bad decision making. So this is a picture of more or less what we'd like our minds to be. It's a lake in our retreat center in New York. Small lake. I took this picture one morning and it was a perfect mirror, the lake. You can see, if the mind is calm, you will be able to reflect things as they really are. And look what I did, I was naughty. I somehow held the camera and I did this. I threw a rock into the lake. Just one rock. Look what happened. So we're throwing rocks at a rate of 100,000 a day into the pond of our minds. Do you think that we can, if you think there's clarity there? Won't be. So if there's somehow, you know, between these two sides of the brain looking at events where I have to observe and use my rational intelligence and relating to others and use my emotional intelligence. In the middle, I have to deal with myself. And that's where spiritual intelligence comes into play. I have to be spiritually intelligent as well, to understand my needs, understand the needs of the people that I work with. So in meditation, what we do, we strengthen our sense of self, we strengthen our seat of spiritual power. We become aware of the moment, we center ourselves. It's the opposite of being egocentric. It's to understand, if you're in the center of 360 degrees of things, you are still, actually. Everything is moving around, but you aren't. You sit on that inner seat, and then you remember your spiritual nature. But after all, in my deepest state, I am peaceful, I am loveful. Actually, I have truth. I forget it, but there's truth there. There's innate wisdom that I don't use. There's innate power that I don't use. And in that, there's a connection with the Supreme, the Source, right? The one behind all of this. And that gives you a very different perspective. And this is the sort of pause that we have to practice. And, you know, there are some attitudes, and we're going to be working with these in a minute. Attitudes that I need to, from sitting on that seat of spiritual power, my spiritual empowerment, you could say, it's very easy to manage attitudes. You know, even in the Sanskrit, the smriti is there and then the vritti, right? So if I have the right smriti, I'll have the right vritti, the right attitude. So in leadership, there are certain attitudes which are very important. I have to be focused. And that means I have to train myself to see the few things that make the difference, not get lost in the details. I have to learn to be present so that, you know, that's what the question that I asked. Are people happy when you come or when you leave? You're there, right? You're not, someone's talking to you, you're looking at your messages on your WhatsApp. No. Be present. If you're present, you'll understand more as well. If you're not present, you'll understand a little bit. Be agile. That means to be prepared to leave past settings, past consolidated beliefs. Be prepared to leave what you believe. These days, wisdom is in how long you take to respond adequately to something. That's what wisdom is. So agility requires flexibility. It requires being compact also. So if I'm compacted, sitting in my inner state of power, then I can do that. Power to adjust. Be appreciative. When was the last time you appreciated someone? Every day. But have you said it? Did you say it? Okay. That's absolutely important. Because then you know you'll have a basically powerful, you know, that's what I said before. It's all in the relationships, it's all in the conversation. Be courageous. Face difficult people. Who has difficult people on their radar? Do you? You put your radar on, beep, 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 all right? Who's got adverse circumstances in front of them? Adverse. You've got a pretty adverse government at the moment, it looks like. I mean, I'm just an observer from outside. But adverse decisions changes the way. But, you know, I have to have the power to have the right conversations, the difficult conversations. With myself also, I have to be brutally honest so that I can, you know, live, basically. Have to be prepared. Anything can happen anytime. I was remembering I was sitting with with the CFOs of the second biggest mining company in the world, in Switzerland. And my work was to drive a deal on a one unified financial policy. That's the sort of work that I was, professional work that I was into. And they were sitting there and they were happy as anything. They had $11 billion in cash. They were thinking about buying Alcoa. It's a Brazilian company called Vale. They were thinking about buying a big aluminium company. We are great, we are this. It was 1 week before that big collapse in 2008. So in 1 week, they lost that $11 billion. And they had to send away, I don't know how many, all of the people that organised the meeting were fired even. So anything can happen. So in a hurricane, there's two places to be. You get carried around by the winds or sit in the middle. You have to detach, you have to observe, and you have to act. And this is what I said before, centered. Look at the things around you. Train yourself to be clear about whatever's going on. And lastly, be yourself. Be yourself. Don't try to be someone else. And be the best you that you can be. So these attitudes we're going to look at, you know, from this inner seat of power, you know, these are the thoughts of things that we can do. And it's not just the inner seat of power, it's the inner state, inner seed of power. Because this picture here and this one behind me represents the energy of the life force. Yeah?
Just want to know if you are going to give us a copy of your presentation or we keep voting.
I can give you a copy of the presentation, no problem.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know.
And a short question. What is the difference between be centered and be focused?
Well, centered is sitting in the middle of everything and being on the seat of perception. And being focused is looking outside and seeing what matters. So one is creating the perspective from the center, and from that you see what matters, and that means focus.
And maybe remain equidistant from everything.
Yeah, being centered also, yeah, equidistant. But those things are attitudes. Then I said smriti is the basis of vritti. So this state of consciousness, and I'll just finish off now. And we're going to go off into small groups. Yeah?
Okay. You say that be prepared. And when you have to be prepared, you keep on thinking, this, that will happen. And then you clutter.
No.
How do you be prepared
Yeah,
without
okay.
thinking on it?
Be prepared. If we go back to that one of the, yeah, this one, yeah. Here you see the eye of the hurricane. The winds are 25 miles an hour. And the surrounding winds are like 150 miles an hour. So if you're in a hurricane and you're in a ship, which is the best place to be? In the eye. So this analogy, I go to the eye, I prepare myself, I disarm myself. It's funny, isn't it? You think, I disarm myself with the things that are not working, and I arm myself with the things that do work, and then I'm ready for anything. I make plans, yes, but I'm also ready for contingencies. It's a state of readiness. It's a state of readiness. Anything can happen, anyone, anytime, anywhere. Am I ready? Just to illustrate that, I was giving a talk in Chile, in Santiago, remaining calm in the chaos. That was the talk. In the middle of the talk, there was an earthquake. 2 minutes of shaking, not a tremor, an earthquake. And how was I? After so many years of meditation, right? What to do? there were half of the people ran out in panic, and some of the people stayed. So naturally, my curiosity went to the ones that were staying. How come you're sitting there? Why didn't you run out? So I just adjusted my perception. I wanted to understand how come some people ran out, how come some people didn't. And they said, well, we're sitting in a wooden building. We're sitting in a wooden building. Wooden buildings handle earthquakes better than brick ones. They told me it's better to stay here. What do we do then? They said, let's meditate. Okay. Talk over, let's meditate. And that's what it is now. The talk's over. We're going to go into small groups, and we're going to have half an hour over the other side, self-organizing groups of 6. In your pack, can you show me? No, take out the page. You'll find a sheet with some questions on it called Transformational Leadership Dialogue Questions. You're going to go into your groups and you're going to talk about those things for half an hour, then come back. And then we'll feed back from the small groups, so you get a chance to talk with your fellows, your peers, some people you may know, some people you may not know. You get to know new people, and you'll be sharing in the context of this talk, in the context of sitting on this seat of spiritual power, and the attitudes that we need to have from that consciousness. What do you have which is easy? What you do need to work on? What are the things that you need to transform in your thinking? You'll be sharing about that from the heart, I hope. Heart-to-heart conversations. That's what we want. It's not really a dialogue, like a formal thing. It's a heart-to-heart conversation. Then we'll come back at 11, sorry. We'll come back at 11 and get some feedback, and then we'll go for a break. Got it? Okay, so before we go, let's have a minute of this one. So, just sit. And in this state, we'll go out to our rooms, not rushing, just nicely, yeah? Just come, as you're sitting on your physical seat, just sit on this subtle seat behind the eyes, in the middle of the brain, actually. A few centimeters behind the middle of the forehead. That's why they call it the third eye. Just sit there, mentally. There's a whole lot of stuff happening around us. Not only here in this complex, but in the city, in the country, in the world. And I remember that in my natural state, I'm actually peaceful. If I just go back to a state of rest, I give myself a chance to experience peace. Basically, at this state, I'm quite loveful, quite content. When I forget this state, I become discontent. But at the moment, I'm feeling quite okay. I see myself as this tiny star of conscious energy, giving life to the body and also giving life to my activities. And I see myself also connected up to a power source, the one that's remembered as the Supreme, the Paramatma. So I feel that energy coming through me and into the world. And this sort of calms me down and also clarifies my perspective. And I feel okay. So let's open our eyes again, more, and come back into the room. And this state of feeling okay, let's go across the way. You'll find rounds of 6 chairs, so you can self-organize as you wish. And you can look at the questions and start sharing on them. Around 10 past 11, you'll come back. And we'll ring a bell so that you can come back. Okay?
Which is angry and which is, very intelligent, instead of judgment in the morning. Bringing in change in them is Can you come back to me? Yes, I think so. I'll start with you. Arguments, I'm the owner of the company, so I'm the villain, I'm the bad guy, go out, then you are questions के हिसाब से करते
Anyone, or either you can talk about it from your own perspective, or if something that was really interesting happening in your group, you can talk about it from your group perspective. But we didn't ask for a sort of a reporter. You know, we wouldn't ask for a report. It's just spontaneous comments about what you heard, what you talked about, what you thought that you think is very appropriate for you in your way forward as leaders of a lot of people and yourself. Yeah. So who would like to share? You talk for half an hour. You must have talked about quite a lot of things. So this one first. He was the first one, and actually there were two in that group. The one behind you. You can stay there where you are. Everyone sort of. Just stay where you are. You don't need to come to the front. Everyone just look around.
Now the first question was, to begin with, I am Major General MP Singh retired, presently working with Punch Light Company. My honor to be here, sir. Now the first question was, what change in your thinking do you need to have that would make a major difference in your life and work? As I grew through ranks, I was arrogant, and I thought I am the total entity and nobody else matters. That was to the rank of maybe major or half colonel and maybe to the rank of brigadier. Thereafter, as I grew in age, things began to settle. And particularly when I came in touch with the Brahma Kumaris and been listening to Shivaniji particularly, I would say, the change that has come in me is looking from outside to inside. My entire focus earlier was body-mind consciousness. So now it has gradually, over a period of time, shifted from body-mind consciousness to soul consciousness. That's a major shift in me which I look at. And from there, the 7 qualities which we talk of, love, peace, purity, and all that you know, they begin to manifest without much effort. So that was the first question. Second question, the attitudes part, 8 of them are there. The most I have been practicing is be yourself. Particularly in the context of being a leader, I need to be myself, which I have actually been practicing because I cannot tell my men, be present for PT at 6 o'clock when I come at 6:15 myself. They will never respect me. Leadership is all about influencing others and leading by example. And there are several other examples which I can quote will reinforce this point of be yourself. Next point I would like to bring out is the next attitude I would mention is the courage. Courage, moral courage, mental and the physical courage, a necessity for a leader, particularly the armed forces. Courage to face new situations, people, because we are posted out from one unit to another, one terrain to another, very often, where you meet different kinds of people and different situations, different tasks. So you have to face those, and that comes from one of the 7 spiritual qualities, that is power within, the power that you have, inner power. Be appreciative. Again, understanding that some person has contributed something and you need to encourage him, motivate him, and when you appreciate him in public particularly, he is motivated and he delivers more. Others also are motivated once you appreciate somebody in public. We have a system of Sainik Sammelans in which all people gather and you ask a person to rise and other people clap for him, and otherwise also appreciation is a very important thing which we follow on day-to-day basis. And that comes from the spiritual quality love. Being agile comes from knowledge, the intuitive thing also. Again, I'll bring this point with courage, I'll combine it because agility comes to handle different situations, different people differently. And that is what we have been practicing enough. While others, attitudes, I am yet to develop a little more. I would say I am in the region of 6 for them. But for these 4 qualities, the attitudes, I would be at, I'll mark myself 8.
All right, good.
Next question is, how would you see the main people that you interact with if you have the deeper understanding? Earlier, I always complained, why is he behaving this way? Now, simple answer which I have, having learned and listened so much, that it is what he is what he is, I can't change him. And he is what he is because his karmas, because of his previous sanskaras and a lot of other factors, different environment, and therefore I cannot change him and need to accept him as he is. And I would not allow myself to burden myself and take it to my chit and get disturbed. Lastly, energy loss, the entropy part. I found it very comfortable to meditate, and I've been doing it for several years now. And this is the only way I find a very effective and positive way of recouping the energy which one loses over the day, interacting with people, situations, circumstances, and all that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We need to be brief, actually, because there's a lot of people in the room. We've only got 15 minutes for all of this. So if you can be brief, it'd be good.
My name is Vinay Agarwal. I'm a management consultant and an ex-CEO. I just wanted to share one quick insight which I got while doing this exercise. In my work, I end up traveling a lot. And I find that that is very, very recharging for me. The nights you get alone in the hotel and so on and so forth, I find that's a battery recharge. And the insight I got was that maybe it's available without traveling. You can maybe do meditation, and it's available to you at any time, every day it can be available to you. So that's the new insight I got. It's like a big pop.
Yeah, so I'll keep it as short as that one. Hi, I'm Pankaj Krishna. I'm part of the television industry on research. One thing that came across that we chatted was we all face situations and we get entangled into situations. We are good at coming out of the situations if you have a balanced, detached view. So when a friend comes and tell you that, listen, he's going through a mess, it's easy for you to understand and give him an unbiased view, right? If you could do that to yourself, where you could look at yourself as a third person, life is so much sorted. And that gives an answer to most of them, be it meditation, be it 8 hours of sleep, be it anything. Once you get everything in order, then you have a balanced mind, and that makes you happy, peaceful, and everything falls in place.
Very good. Anyone else? I think someone here. Right. Someone here put their hand up, right? Yeah. And then you.
Om Shanti. I'm just going to summarize by telling you my experience, and probably that will help addressing these questions. It so happened that I was in China, and I was at a very weird city where I was to take a flight, to Shanghai. And I got into the plane. I'll make the story very short and I'll tell that, what experience came. And I got into the plane, and after 15 minutes, people started coming out of the plane, and there was some announcement in Chinese language, which I couldn't follow. And finally, when I looked that plane was getting empty, I also came out. And then when I went to the information counter, the lady sitting over there, I inquired what's the matter, and I got a flight, connecting flight, this, that. So she said, no, sorry, I don't know. She made some gesture. So I crossed over the immigration side and then went to the open area where I, wanted to figure out, if I can get another flight. And, interestingly, all flights were booked. And it came as a shock of my life, a pleasant surprise, when a lady behind me just, patted on my back and said, do you need any help? And believe me, hearing these words, do you need any help? I just couldn't believe. And then, to cut the story short, she somehow managed to get me the ticket, the last flight. And I knew the fact that the flight is going to go to the Shanghai domestic airport, and from there to go to international airport to get a flight. So I was sure that now I got to spend my night in Shanghai and then arrange for my ticket next day. So beautiful experience, because the calmness, the tranquility, everything was connected to the Supreme Soul. Let me put it this way. It helped that the flight landed at international airport, and I got my connected flight, and I reached home safely. It was such a wonderful, beautiful experience, and I can visualize that what had happened on that very evening with me. Believe me, this is what my experience journey is going on. It's not just one instance. There have been many such instances in my corporate life also. So I need not to talk much about it, but I thought to share this experience of mine. Thank you.
So can I help you? Can I help you? No, that's a very good attitude you should have. Like, can I help you? Can I help you? Like, you should walk around with a T-shirt. Can I help you? You have to put the switch up.
My name is J.C. Jurani. I am the executive coach. The pattern in our group, I saw the diversity and uniformity both. Diversity was in terms of the attitudes. Some were focused, some got distracted, some were present, some were not so present. I think I saw all of them appreciative of the current environment, and some were more at the self level and so on. But the diversity was, this was the diversity. Now the similarity was that when they were confronted with all these differences in the attitudes, there was a talk with self. There was introspection. And some did it formally through meditation. Some did it by talking to self. And they came, first I think the people tried to change the others, but final answer through the meditation was that change yourself, change your own attitudes, and this is the only way you can change others also.
Very good. Anyone else? Yeah, here. And I'd like to listen to a lady first, if you don't mind. Oh, two. She had the first, then you.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity. I'm Sudatta Kar, and I work in MNC in Gurgaon. I live in Delhi. I think we also have a very diverse group here with a lot of experience, retired personality, and youngsters working in MNCs and government, public sector all around. So I think I'll just share two aspects. I think we discussed many. Two aspects which I think we all liked, and I think to answer the first and the third question, I think we need to be conscious of the various aspects that disturbs us. I think there will be many things which will come on our way, and they will create a lot of frustration, but I think we just need to be conscious about it and deal with it. That is the first thing which came up. And the things could be very different for me, and it could be different from for others. That is the first thing. The second thing we discussed in length is the negativity that comes from people with whom we deal. Like maybe there are key people, could be our family, could be the team members, could be boss, could be anybody. Now, what do we do there? I think there are few key takeaways from that discussion, and I'm sure you all will agree with it. The first one is we have to make sure that it doesn't impact us, because we may not be able to change others. They will behave the way they are because maybe we are here, we are learning how to do meditation on a day-to-day basis, but they may not know that aspect. So we have to just accept them the way they are. When the negativity is coming, we should ensure that it doesn't impact us. We just detach from that, and that is the first thing. And reduce expectations from the people around us. And third, which is a very, very important thing, one of our friend told us here, is that try to bring a smile within you before dealing with any such negativity, and things will be lighter, and you will be able to handle it better. And I think that's all.
Great.
I think the main thing that came out in our group was that besides IQ and EQ, the spiritual quotient is what we all have to work on. So the members here, they had worked on their SQ and they found that really helped them.
Come on over here, right? And then you.
My name is Subir Sangal. I run a IT company. Our group, out of 6 people, there was only one who had been to a similar event earlier. So 5 of us were first timers. So that was interesting. Speaking for myself, before I came in, I was very skeptical about this. And I just came in because a dear friend of mine said, look, I think it's a good thing and you should come in. So that's why I came in. There was no other reason. But after attending this and also learning from the experience of the people in this group, 2 from IT, 2 from business, 2 from education, I am struck by the obviousness of the advantages of meditation. To me, it seems so obvious, and I'm just wondering why I hadn't attended such a thing earlier, or obviously you keep on reading about these things, but it's the first time that being close to people and learning from people who have shared their real life experiences, it's been a revelation. And to me, it's so obvious, the advantages, that I really want to thank the organizers for bringing this home. So thank you very much. That's the simple thing that I wanted to say. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Rajesh Munjal. I think we had an excellent group, basically. I think the biggest thing which we learned in this entire thing is, in our cluttered life, from morning 5 o'clock till 11 o'clock, we are always running. I think the biggest thing which we learned is a pause. I think the entire group agreed on one thing, that there is a time which is required not to switch off, but to pause and then restart. I think that's the one thing. And the second thing is be appreciative. We generally in day-to-day life, we all are thinking that it is something basically which is to be done or has to be done or must be done, right? But we don't really appreciate people who do the work. I think that's the second thing. I think that's the group all agreed to, right? Thank you so much. I think it's wonderful.
You know, I guarantee if you separate 30 seconds out of each hour to pause and to go within and to organize yourself internally, the other 59.5 minutes will be fantastic. Right? Anyone else? This is we've got room for this one and one more, and that's it.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Sanjeev Dinda, and I work for a multinational company in Gurgaon. So this group we had was, we were from different industry background, but all are working for some or the other company. And I think we also very clearly agreed on that all of us, we need to really declutter and take a pause, which we really don't do. And I think the group was very open about admitting what they are not able to do. in terms of the attitude, and I think everybody was clear that what sort of attitude they need to really work on. So people wanted to be more in present. They wanted to be more courageous. They wanted to be more centered. Yeah. And in terms of people around them, I think everybody wanted to be more appreciative of the circumstances, of their background, and why people are doing certain things. So be appreciative of that. And finally, I think everybody is doing something to I would say, detach themselves from the day-to-day life, maybe doing walking, playing sports, listening to music. And I think all of us, we agreed that meditation could be something which can take us to the next level. Thank you.
Okay. One more? Okay, last one. Okay.
We had a very vibrant team here with diversified backgrounds, and we had a very internal insights on discussing about various points. But one thing we all agree to it is that we have been chasing with so many things on our daily life, personal or professional. But one thing we are missing is inner calm, inner joy. So the best way to gain out of this, we all concluded, is that the meditation, and give a peace, inner peace, and improve it as we go.
Just before we go for a break, I'd just like to invite you to think about, you've seen this complex here, this campus. It's really very congenious to this sort of work. And as it was mentioned, there are retreats here that you can come and participate in. There are also possibilities of having this sort of meeting from time to time as well, with other leaders, business leaders, because it's also a good forum. You know, you can share with people who are in a very similar situation to yourself about real matters. And if you have this open sharing, it really makes you feel good that people are doing this sort of effort. You get inspired from people who are like yourself. Also, one of the reasons I'm here is I developed a program called Leading the Self, which actually, it's a 10 workshop program. Sort of what I spoke before is more or less the essence of that program. And we go into it more deeply, of course, in workshops of 1.5 hours. And we're going to be offering those things in company to the companies that want them. Also, maybe here we can do some seminars as well. But there are a number of activities that you can participate in. Just, you know, keep in touch with the site here. Also, there are programs in our headquarters in Mount Abu, which who has been to Mount Abu here? Okay, some of you. So there are many programs and seminars and things there too. So we are, you know, at your service in a way, offering these things from the heart. And so we like to, as Janardhan said, we have to help the society through the leaders. So it's good. So we're going to have just a 30 seconds silence and then go out for the break. And when we come back, we'll have Sister Shivani with us. Yeah, back to the other room, this where we're sort of a plenary sort of style. Yeah? So let's just be silent for a few 30 seconds. Just do that pause. Just go within and sit on your subtle seat of inner power. Remember who you are and what you are and your connection with the source and everyone else.